What's going on, the digital world? Another episode here of the Web Buzz podcast, and I'm joined by the Google Nader himself, and it's so fitting. I was thinking of that right as we were getting started. The Google Nader name is so fitting for today's episode. So, Roger, what's up, my man? How's your day going so far?
Going good, man. As always, man, it's nice and bright outside over here on the island, so I'm feeling good, ready for this one. It's all about Google today, so it's going to be an exciting one.
It is all about Google, and we'll get into that here in a second, but I'm glad to hear that it's all good on your end. And update everybody real quick, because your time in Guam is starting to dwindle down a little bit, correct?
That's right, man. And things are starting to become real in regards to our move. So it's pretty excited. Obviously, we've been out here for close to 3 years now. And now we are getting ready to head to Maryland. So I've been talking to a lot of our clients, right, at Top Results Consulting. And we have a number of people in that general area. So I'm pretty excited for the move. But I'll be honest, I'm going to miss the beach out here. I'm going to miss the island living. I'm not going to lie. It's been nice. I've acclimated to everything out here, so it's gonna be bittersweet, I think.
Yeah, and I bring that up because I don't know. I've been talking to a lot of individuals. Some of them are clients, some of them not. That kind of stuff. And business is just changing, right? Things are a little unique at the given moment. Economy's obviously in a weird spot. Things are happening, COVID things, some restrictions, some aren't, all this stuff's still going on. And some of them were, just talking about some of the difficulties and all the other stuff. And you mix this whole digital thing that we talk about all the time on this podcast here. And it hit me. I was like, wait a minute, Roger's actually pretty soon. He's like, household things are going to be gone. He's going to be packing up and moving. It sucks moving just from like one state to another state. I can't imagine packing up an entire house, a wife, kids, all of that stuff, planning for multiple months without the majority of the stuff, and then moving an entire ocean away.
Yeah, it's definitely right here on the back of my head. all of the above, but to be honest, we this isn't new, right? We've done this before when we moved out here. I've worked with you for years, so you've seen how things like this work. Now that we're running a digital agency, some of the things that we kind of teach also within our network and our clients is how to be mobile, how to work from remote places and not stop. You got to keep going because in today's age, I mean, it's real. It's possible. And where many of us are doing it at a very high level. And is it easy? Absolutely not. I mean, you always need this support of your team or outside resources, whether that be VAs, whether that be softwares, right? But it's all about kind of learning this new environment of working remote. And once you kind of nail that down to a certain point, it's doable, man. Because I'm going to be, as you see, we got many clients. We got a pretty good size agency, and I'm going to be able to run everything and help out as much as I can from a laptop, from my laptop for a couple weeks. And in today's age, you can do that.
Well, and it's funny you talk about being mobile, because that leads us right into some of the major elements that we're going to be talking about here today. And it really stems from something big that's going on in the space, right? And when I say something big, it's because Big Brother himself, the big behemoth in the search engine optimization or search world, I should say, just period search world. We all know who that is, folks. Google suddenly making another update. Now, before we even get into all of it, it's not like Google has never made an update before, right, Roger? I mean, there's been multiple updates along. But before we get into too much details, what's just unique about the way this update is starting to roll out?
Yeah, so this one is unique because it's in the industry of digital marketing SEO, right? This is basically where the big talk is happening. A lot of you guys are just you're entrepreneurs, right? You have agencies. Not sure if they're passing this information along. A lot of them don't. That doesn't really need to. But where this is going, and where this your agency and us as an agency, we're very aware. I don't want to say concerned, because if you're doing certain things, you shouldn't be. You should all actually be excited about these things, right? But for this update, it's called the Google Page Experience Update, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's Google trying to improve the results that it provides its searchers on Google, right? So they have the best experience possible. So what do I even mean by that is Google's always tried to do this. You might even ask yourselves, like, wait a minute, it's like Google Page Experience. Don't they always do this? Well, it's hard. They manage and they index trillions, right? It's like trillions of pages on the internet. So for them, they need to manage all those pages that are indexed, basically our websites, your websites, everybody's websites that are indexed on Google, and try to decide which ones are the best results when someone types in a certain keyword, right? So this has been an ongoing factor. And that's why Shawn's like, Google, this isn't the first time this has happened. This is an ongoing and will continue to be. The difference this time around is there's already been many different updates very similar to this that had led up to what's happening now. And all that's happening is that particular algorithm update is actually improving that factor or that concept of Google Page Experience. So one of the things that we're going to be looking at today and breaking down is, what does that mean? What should you be looking out for? Look at your website. What should you be checking out? And if something looks a little not right, then start asking some questions. I'll kind of stop there, Shawn, so we can kind of go down a couple different routes here on how to approach this, and how you guys, our viewers, can make sure that you're sitting in a good position to take advantage of this update, not be scared of it.
I'm laughing because you make it sound so small, yet the headlines on some of the articles out there, folks, when you read something that's like Mobilegeddon, that just sounds really bad if you didn't know what it meant. The funny thing is Mobilegeddon happened, what was that, 2015, right? And when you were saying that, I was just thinking to myself, I almost blurted out. Basically, what Google's saying right now is, hey, folks, we've kind of dabbled with this and told you that we're going to do this, and now we're getting really serious about it. We've perfected some of the mistakes we didn't have in place before to catch all these things, and our algorithm's a lot smarter now, and we're going to get more serious. So if you don't listen to anything else out of this today, it's take that message right there. If you've been kicking the bucket, if you've kind of been skating by, if you've kind of been like, I survived the first go, I'm okay. Chances are, right, you've gotten away long enough. Things are going to start to change. And to Roger's other point, and I totally agree with them, because it's something that we haven't really, none of our clients have asked or really been too concerned about it. Why? We do a lot of this stuff already, naturally, just kind of out of the box. We probably got a couple fine-tuned things to tighten up and dial it in, and no hiccups whatsoever. But with that being said, there are a couple things that kind of stand out to me, and I want to fire some questions your way, Roger, and just kind of we'll break each of these down here. It's kind of your time to shine, Mr. Google Nader.
There we go.
So what you do is live inside the Google codes. But when they talk about core web vital metrics, and I'm reading right from one of the pieces of content that we found out there talking about this, core web vital metrics will start to impact rankings in 2021. I hear that, and that to me sounds like, oh, some of these things really weren't a big impact, but now suddenly they are. Can you unpack that a little bit? What do they mean by core vital metrics, number one, and how are they suddenly going to start to impact the rankings?
Absolutely. So that's we're going to head a little bit, and I'm going to try to keep it very general, because that's basically techie talk, right? That's where it gets kind of behind the scenes, under the hood. But it breaks down into three different categories for the web vitals, and one of them is loading. So to keep it simple, speed of your website, right? So the speed of the website is a big category that's being now factored in. In the past, Google has mentioned that it's important, obviously, for user experience. Nobody wants to be waiting for a website to load for a long time, right? Before they see what's actually on the page, especially on mobile. Everybody's on different connections. Think about when you're on your mobile device, you're connected to a lot of different Wi-Fi connections if you're not using your own data. So that's why for mobile, it's very important that you have a good loading on your website, right? So that way people can do it. So that's becoming now a huge factor into how you're going to rank. So once again, we always use the example. If there's two websites that are exactly the same, but one is loading in 15 seconds and the other one's loading in 3 to 5 seconds, then the 3 to 5 seconds will outrank that one. It's as simple as that. So that's one of the web vitals that is very important. And just under that one category, guys, there is a lot that goes into it. That's why I don't want to kind of go too deep, because that's more on the tech side on how fast the website is loading. Goes down to your hosting, right? It can be your hosting. It can be the platform, whether you're using Wix, WordPress, GoDaddy, things like that. In some cases, you have no control over this, and that's just the way the platform goes. So what I'm thinking is that there are going to be some platforms out there that are going to be affected pretty badly because there's no way for them to change it. They're just too big, right? It's like making a big corporate change within a big organization. So thinking about it that way. So that's basically one of the categories is loading. So if you go to your website, it's loading pretty good. Then you're fine. But in most cases, there are some platforms that just have no control. And unfortunately, those platforms will lose rankings if you're doing really well. The other one is interaction, right? How well people can interact with the website itself. This goes back more towards kind of layout. So good example that I can use on your website. If you have a page that just has a ton of content, good content, let's just kind of say it's good, but it almost looks like a Word doc, right? Or a Google Doc with just a bunch of information, but there's no good interaction for the user, me to go there. All I'm doing is almost reading a book, right? Well, a web page is not really meant for that. A web page is meant for give me some interaction, something to click on or interlinking, right? Some links to go to a different page within the website. So they're looking at that, what the interaction kind of score is, kind of seeing how good that is. And a lot of this stuff is going to now affect your rankings, right? And then the third category that I look at in regards to web vitals is the visuals on the website. And this is a tricky one because there is a balance, right? So there is a balance, obviously, on a web page. You want it to look good. You want it to be nice and organized. So the content makes sense. It's not just a bunch of content that's on there splattered together, but it doesn't flow nicely. But you also want to have images, videos, lead magnets, things like that. So there's a balance when I say that, because you do want those things on there, but you don't want to overload it where you affect the other critical thing, which is loading, right? So there's a fine tuning of doing that, so you take advantage or so you don't get affected by this update. Because you could say video all day. I'm going to put my entire YouTube channel on my page. Next thing you know, your rankings start falling. Why? Because your loading is like a minute, right? It just doesn't load right because you have too much going on that page. So those are the vitals, Shawn, that Google's kind of looking at to make sure, is the website a good balance? Does it have all these core items? And when someone lands on this page, are they having that full experience, right? So the websites that are kind of hitting and checking all those boxes the best, once again, it's almost like a race. They will be outranking the other ones that are not.
So before we go any deeper on this, I kind of want to squash a little myth that I think still runs around out there, because I bet there's some people that are like, at the end of the day, ranking really doesn't matter. I can just drive traffic directly to my website. Anyway, so okay, cool. Google's making these changes. I don't really care. I'm not trying to rank. And I was just blown away by some of the stats that I happen to see in some of these bits of information that we've found here. And just listen to this, folks. Every day, over 3.5 billion searches are conducted on Google. That's just Google. That isn't even taking into consideration Yahoo, Bing, and yes, there are other platforms. 3.5 billion searches conducted on Google. After a little number crunching, that breaks down to a whopping 40,000 searches per second. I just spent probably 3, 4, 5 seconds saying that sentence at 40,000 searches a second. Here's the fun part, though. People conducting these billions of searches, 75% of them, 3 out of every 4, will never get beyond the first page results. So I know, Roger, you joke about this all the time. There actually is a page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of
it does exist. I promise it does. I've seen it. I've been there. It's dark. You don't want to go there.
It seems that it only exists to about 1/4 of people doing searches on there. So I happen to see that because, and I wanted to bring it up because as you're talking about all of these things, and they do sound a little techie, right? It sounds like, what do you mean by speed and my server and my platform and my hosting and all this? And you're telling me I got to have all these visual things but then it's going to bog this down. Screw it, right? But stats show that this is not a thing to say, screw it to. So with that being said, user experience. I know we've done a past episode on and kind of broke this topic down a little bit. What is user experience? What should be thought about in there? But in this realm of user experience, I get what you're saying. People need to be able to interact on it. There's another big component to user experience. I'm on it right now. And it's a major, major element to what Google's new algorithm is, to your words, a little more smart around, and that is the mobile friendly side of it, right? And we've talked about this a bunch. 2020 probably shifted how much more these things are being used when it comes to searching, but it just goes to show, I mean, if Google's going to start to put a little more emphasis on this and really crack down a little tighter on this, that has to be a forefront at the front end of it. So kind of go a little bit deeper there on what I'm talking about from a mobile friendly side, user experience end of things. Yes, there's the interactive bit, but what are some things to consider on that mobile side?
Yeah, absolutely. It's simple, right? It's like, not to get too deep into this, is basically the numbers of people actually on a mobile device now have gone up majorly, right? So now, once again, we've had past episodes where we keep kind of pushing. It's like, hey, 2020 kind of shifted things, online. A lot of things online. Well, guess what? Not everybody's has time to be on a laptop or their desktop at home. So majority of these searches are happening on mobile. So it goes back, if you look at all the factors, and just without getting too into the technical stuff, is put yourself in the shoes of your particular client. If you're an entrepreneur and you have a website, go to it on a mobile device. Does it make sense? Would you do business with with you, right? Make sure the information that you want people to see is on there. And at the end of the day, too, I probably bite my own tongue by saying that. It's like, make sure that the information you want that might be wrong as well, because that is something like, what does the user want to see when they go to your website? Because on a mobile device, they have a smaller screen. So you're above the fold, which is the first kind of thing that they see on the screen, is the most important part, right? So you got to kind of see what your products are, your services are, and make sure it's there. That's kind of the experience. And we go back simple, the load. If I'm on a mobile device and I don't have a very good connection, and your website's just taking forever to load, and someone recommended me and that's how I got to your website, or maybe I found you online, or I clicked, even worse, right? I clicked on a Google search and you were ranking pretty well, and I click on it and it takes forever, and I never open the website and I leave. If you get too many of those are bounces. That's a metric that Google's looking at. And if you have too many of those, your rankings will start dropping very fast, especially when this algorithm update gets released. So that's something that you got to kind of look at, that your mobile version of your website is the one that's probably going to be looked at the most. There are a lot of factors out there depending on what industry you're in, things like that. But for the majority of us, mobile is where our clients are, and they're looking up information. They're finding us on search results. They're finding us on Google Maps, things like that. So you got to make sure that the experience on a mobile version of your website is on point. So yeah, not to kind of go too deep, because from there it becomes technical. From there, because if you have it all laid down, then it becomes technical, because it's just the platform that you're on that's making sure that the vitals that we talked about, right, are on point. And that's sometimes hard. You just got to be with the right platform that has everything set up for you and ready to go.
So on that note, I mean, again, we've done a deep episode on an entire stack suggestion. We kind of broke down even what TRC's stack looks like and why we build the way that we build on things. But give me some hope. I'm the new business owner. I'm just trying to figure out how to get this business going. Now you're throwing this curveball at me. Give me some hope of, like, what are the things that you feel are safe? If you're doing XYZ, you should be okay, as far as tools that you're using or kind of the setup that you have.
Absolutely. So number one thing that I can say is make sure you're with a credible agency that knows what they're doing when it comes to a website platform, right? And what do I? That's a very kind of general statement. Is ask some questions, right? It's like what hosting are you guys using? Are you guys using a fast hosting? I know a lot of the questions might be something that it doesn't understand, but it's as simple as that. Because if people, your agency, starts stuttering or they don't know, then you should be worried, right? If they don't know exactly what they're using, because that's what you want to know. Is all you want is to feel good. It's like, hey, I'm worried about this new update. Are you guys using a fast hosting, right? Is it something that's fast? And it's like, ooh, I got to ask and think about it. You don't get a response for a week, then it might be time to start asking some questions. The other thing is, do they know about this core, right? So you got to kind of look at that, because if you're with an agency that responds to you is like, yes, absolutely, we're aware of all this, don't worry about it, we got you. Or even if it doesn't have to be that everything is great, it's like, we have a game plan for this, right? We know it's there. This is what we're doing, XYZ. This is going to be our game plan. And in some cases, they need you to make some edits on your end. Maybe you have control of the website. You need to make certain adjustments. So that's good as well. The only bad thing that I see here that you do definitely kind of got to watch out for, if you're managing your own website and you happen to not to have all the skill set, right? Not your fault. You did a good job kind of probably getting everything going. Maybe you're even doing well on the rankings. That's where it becomes dangerous, because if you don't have a team that can support you to make these adjustments that are going to be needed for these new algorithm changes, then you might watch all that traffic that you might be getting to your website just drop because you just didn't do that. So simple things, I guess, that I can give is, if you do have everything set up, like, let's talk simple, SSL certificate is that little HTTPS. It's a little lock on the top of the search address bar. And usually it's green on most browsers. If you see that little lock up there, you're good. That's called an SSL certificate. That just basically means that your website is secure. That is a must on this update. That's been something we've talked about for years. We say, hey, Google keeps saying this is important, this is important. Well, now it's very important. If you don't have that, you are going to lose rankings. And even worse, when someone goes to your website, they already see a page that says, hey, this website might not be secure. So you don't want that, right? And then just make sure that you're putting the right content on the site. So you can kind of take advantage of some of these those user experience. So make sure that the content on there is telling a story and is taking you in the right direction. I do have an example, Shawn, that from one of our clients. I won't name exactly who it was, but it was a big eye opener for me, because it's a big company that they were talking about. They're about to leave, or at least downgrade their subscription because of something that has to do with these updates that are happening, and they're already seeing the effects. So I'll mention the big company because they're major corporations. So it's something like let's see here. Zillow. So we do a lot of stuff in real estate, right? So Zillow's a huge player. And then you got all the other ones, realtor.com, and all the other ones. Well, we do a lot with real estate investors, agents, so, well, agents rely a lot on their lead source through platforms like Zillow. Okay, so they pay a lot of money. I'm talking 10, 15, $20,000 because it's worth it, right? This update is going to majorly affect those big industry or those big websites because in some cases they haven't followed all this, and the only reason they're up there is because they have a ton of authority, a ton of trust, right? But Google has to play to a certain point by their own rules. Well, if they're not following every single user experience criteria, those guys will start dropping, right? So there is a major kind of shift in the mentality of a lot of these people, like agents will use that in this industry because they're seeing the shift already, and they're seeing changes that these websites have to go through. Well, guess what? When you make major changes to a corporation, like we talked to a corporate website, Google has to re-index everything, think about what the strategy is, and it takes months, if not years. So what's happening is these agents that are paying all this money that are used to just getting fed leads, all of a sudden just dropped. Just the leads just dropped. And it's happening now. I have an actual live client that is talking to me. Is like, Roger, I think you've been talking to me for months, and I believe it. He's basically saying, it's like, I think the future is SEO. I need to control my own destiny, right? That's basically what this client's saying. I get it, what you're talking about now. I think I need to now invest all this money into my SEO and really own my own destiny, which is their ranking factors, right? How they rank on, and not be paying all this money to these big corporations that kind of, it was great while it lasted, but now I'm seeing the shift and it's affecting our business. So now they're thinking about, they're moving some budgets around, taking money away from the marketing, from the big, what they've been using for years, and now shifting into SEO, following kind of a lot of the stuff that's happening. So for those of you out there, whether you're a big, medium, small company, that should be an eye opener, because you have the opportunity now. The playing field is starting to get level, and now you have kind of a route that you can start working towards, kind of owning your own destiny when it comes to rankings, when it comes to your traffic to your website.
And that is why we call him the Google Nader. He's been preaching it for months, and even then they didn't listen until. All right, one last question for you on this topic. It's a two-parter, though. So really we can call it two questions, I guess. Number one is, when's it rolling out? And the second follow-up to that is, where should somebody get started kind of looking at their current set? Like where's the most important thing right out of the gate to start looking at now to make sure that they're ready for that?
Absolutely. So let's answer the first one, because the first one's pretty simple, but I'm going to leave it open as well. So this particular rollout was supposed to happen in May. So as of now, this recording is in the May timeframe towards the end, right? It didn't happen. They pushed it out. So right now it's scheduled, no exact date, but scheduled for mid-June.
Now,
I wouldn't be surprised. Go ahead.
Do you think that that's why some of the bigger players are maybe seeing some experience, or kind of experiencing some of this already? Do you think some of it maybe got put out there a little bit?
Absolutely. Some of it, because they have to test. And when they they make small little adjustments, they see major changes, they got to slow down. Because if it was a major update, imagine that, right? You put it all up there and things break. Look at it as anything that you just kind of make a big change to, and something doesn't go right, it can be catastrophic, right?
Man, if I was
so
on
what
page
they do
99 of the Google rankings, I'd want them to send it out there and break. Then I'd show up on page
exactly.
Might only be for a minute.
Exactly. Right. So no, I wouldn't doubt it. Nobody really knows, but I wouldn't doubt it if some of this stuff has already been testing for months. I'll be honest, if this hasn't been tested, and that's why the conversations I'm starting to have with some of our clients are starting to make sense to them, because they're seeing what's happening, right? They're not seeing like the technical side, they're seeing their leads, their traffic. That's what they're seeing, and that's what worries them. And now everything that I've been kind of talking to them about starting to kind of come together. So in regards to when, we're expecting mid-June. But once again, that's kind of what's on right now, what Google's putting out there, that's when that releases. I wouldn't doubt it gets put out a little more for more testing. So, but mid-June. And then where should you be looking? If you're like, oh man, this is a great topic, I want to make sure I'm ready. for this, right? What and where should I be looking? I'm a little confused. I'm not very tech savvy. I have a website, but what should I do? What I would say is go to your website, look at it on desktop, look at it on mobile, put yourself in the shoes of the user, making sure what you're looking at is actually something that you want to be there. Once again, you might want to not just show it to yourself, right? You might want to share it with some friends, some family. Don't just do it with your office connection on the internet, right? Do it with a couple other people. And obviously, if something is not appearing, it's slow. It's just, maybe you have a conversation with your hosting company. They can't answer the questions that you want. You can always reach out to us, right? We're more than happy to answer a couple of these questions. That's why we do these podcasts. We look at the trends, what's happening, and try to kind of provide as much information as possible for you guys to get, to win online. So yeah, that's the first thing that I would say is just go test your own stuff. Go through a couple things. If you see anything, if maybe the website doesn't even appear because you don't have an SSL certificate. I don't know, Shawn, how many times we've done that. Yeah. All the times, like I go to a website and I look at it and I don't see that little lock, or, I get, one of the browsers not showing the website. I'm like, how long have you had this website? 3 years. When was the last time you looked at it? 3 years ago.
Years ago.
Man, it's time to call Top Results Consulting. Right? So it's like, because we will make sure we're looking after you. All these things that we talked about. Obviously, we try to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to these updates and do as much research as possible. And obviously, even if you're not one of our clients, we always try to kind of provide some good value. So you're prepared for these algorithm updates.
Absolutely. And you guys can see it rolling across the bottom of the screen, or it'll be linked up in the show notes as well. Give you a kind of a 7-step process breakdown, something easy. The first 2 steps of this, or really it was more steps 2 and 3 of this process, will help you dissect and analyze some of these exact things that Roger is talking about. So you can just go to topresultsconsulting.com/7 steps to get that free resource. It's a quick little mini course, breaks everything down, help you out, get you moving, get you going in the right way, make you feel comfortable that this algorithm isn't going to hurt you and in your business too much. So anything you want to close us out with, Roger? Anything else you've got on this topic that maybe I forgot about?
No, I think we're good. This was a pretty loaded one. I just hope people take this serious, because it is a serious update. The robot Google is getting smarter. All that means is if you're not doing the right things, if you're not doing what should be on the check boxes, you will drop. That's the reality of it. If you don't have these simple things in place, you will drop. So hopefully that kind of relates to a lot of people out there, and they actually check the website they haven't looked at in 3 years and ask some questions.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, that is all SEO and ranking is about doing the right thing, checking the box, pleasing the Google nator. Because if you please him, he'll put in a good word for you to the actual
That's right.
bot.
That's right.
But in true seriousness here, if you check the box, if you do the right stuff, and you outwork and outperform the competition, you're gonna get the results. Google wants to put the right stuff in front of the right people. They want to favor and give the traffic to the people that are actually doing what they're supposed to do. So they're making a change. You got to make a change along with it. Play the game, check their boxes, blend in what they're looking for into the human side of this as well. It also feeds right into that user experience end of things. And if you're doing all that stuff right, you got nothing to worry about. If you're the company that's been maybe kind of bootstrapping, putting this stuff together off of multiple different platforms, or you just really haven't paid attention to it, you're just, I got a website because I needed to have something somewhere possibly that somebody might see someday. You're the person that needs to kind of take a step back and maybe look at this a little more serious about it. But at the end of the day, Top Results, we are here to help you. If you've got any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. So thanks again, Roger, for bringing the gold bars and dropping them here. I was going to drop one earlier, but my mouse jacked up on me and
no worries, man. We got next week. We're fine.
Absolutely.
We're good.
Absolutely.
We'll drop some more value next week.
With that being said, it is rolling into the Memorial Day weekend at the time of recording this particular podcast. So everybody have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Be safe out there. I know a lot of places starting to loosen up a little bit. Maybe have a little more barbecues and bonfires and fun, but be safe. And we will see you guys next Wednesday, live 4 p.m. Pacific time on the Web Buzz podcast, or we'll see you on a future episode out there on one of the podcast players, YouTube, whatever the case. Until next time, here's to your success.